Kamineni. I'm with Logan Aluminum. How many of you heard about Logan Aluminum? We are suppliers to PepsiCo. And if you, I've been with Logan for the last 15 years. Various roles. 5 years ago, business transformation leader. In the last 2 years, chief innovation and technology leader. So I had this slide up about our mission statement. That hasn't changed since 1984. That's a few years ago. And if you look at the mission, business transformation, digital transformation, these terms we use now are not new. Somebody at that time thought about every one of those terms. How we do it is different now. The pace at which we do it is different now. So a little bit about Logan Aluminum. $64 billion revenue, $0 revenue. We don't sell anything. Logan Aluminum doesn't own any assets on that mill you see there. And we don't buy our raw material. We don't own the raw material. We don't own the inventory. We don't own the plant. We don't sell anything. We have 1,400 people running that mill for our owners. So construction started in 1981, 83 plant startup, and in 85, Justice Department intervened and said, you're too big, monopolistic, so you have to have two owners. They forced us to be in a joint venture. So Arco, which is part of BP at that time, and Alcan were joint owners of the mill, and that's how Logan Aluminum was formed to help them run their products. Fast forward now, we're about a 100-acre site with 50 acres under the roof. You see there in the beautiful valleys of Kentucky, peaceful. Over the years, it changed many hands. Now, Triaros Aluminum, which is a wholly owned subsidiary of United Aluminum Corporation of Japan, and Novelis, which is a wholly owned subsidiary of Hindalco, who are number 1 and number 3 in the world for aluminum sheet, are joint owners of this plant. We are the largest aluminum sheet rolling mill in the world, in North America. We supply about 45% of the North American canned sheet. So if you had any beverage, beer or soda from a can, there's a 45% chance you used our product. We are also the youngest aluminum rolling mill in the country, and we are 40 years old. We won't be youngest in the next 3 years. One of our owners have announced an equal size of mill, a mill that size, in Alabama. In the last 3 years, demand for aluminum has increased. If you see the water bottles, water was never given in aluminum. People didn't like to drink water in something that they can't see. Things are changing. So demand for aluminum, every pound we can produce from that mill is already called for, and Pepsi, Coke, everybody wants, Anheuser-Busch, everybody wants some more of aluminum. So that brings us to a challenge. How will we be in business 2 years from now? This is all impressive history. I can talk about history all day long, but how will we be in business? We make about 22 billion pounds of aluminum a year. I'll come to why that's important. 75% of it is recycled post-consumer beverage cans. So please don't throw it in trash. We can use all of it forever. Aluminum is recyclable forever. Any can that goes into the landfill is a waste. So our plant, we have 7 areas. Each one of those areas is like a mini mill. Each one has 200 to 300 employees. We have 10 melters, and I won't read all the machines we have there. So maintaining those machines at that speed, anybody knows how fast an aluminum copper or a aluminum sheet manufacturer runs the sheet? We run it at 8,000 feet per minute. That's pretty fast for metal to run. The can makers run it in faster if you ever see a can making facility. Keeping it maintained at that level, we were focused on reliability for a long time. Past 15 years, we've been with Azima for our vibration analysis and predictive maintenance. And that's the return on investment, like I said, that's been, it's already paid for itself. And last 2 years, we started our APM journey to bring our vibration and process data, mostly in our rolling equipment, and we're targeting a 5% reduction on unplanned downtime. I'm going a little fast because you don't want to listen to me. At the end of it, we have our users, our reliability engineers, and them having a conversation. That's the most important part. So in the last 4 years, we had our reversing mill and finishing mill and the slitters on the APM system. Reversing mill and finishing mill, every pound, we have only one of those two. So every pound that we make has to go through those two machines. 2 billion pounds a year. A 70,000 pound ingot goes through that into a 1 inch, from 27 inches to 1 inch in 8 minutes. And we have 4 days worth of inventory before they come knocking at our door. So, or you run out of cans on the. So for the reversing mill, this is a use case. We have about 1,000 measurements, data points going into it. Machine learning detects the anomalies early, and the cause and APM provides the causes and recommendation what goes into that. Direct data from our PLCs, directly IoT streamed into our cloud and sent into multi-cloud, Azima's cloud. Our alloy data, the tensile strength and the alloy types, the products, because all products run through the same machine. And sheet thickness, sheet width, finish gauge, and our vibration and our oil analysis goes into that. Just as an example of things we found on May 15th, this is on the left-hand side, you see the screen. That's our system, which said there is something happening with the gearbox shaft issue and need to check the gearbox. And well enough, we have spalling on the gears. This is being driven by a 12,000 horsepower motor. It takes 2 trucks with 100 wheels to get it for rewinding if you have to send it out. So finding that and taking care of that first, that one incident could pay for everything we gave Azima Symphony for in the past 15 years and for the next 5 years. No, I won't. And I didn't tell how much that motor costs. It's pretty big. So coming to the plan, we started with the first 4 machines in the last 2 years. We got good written and good support from the management. So in the next 4 years, we'll be having the next 20 machines into the APM. That's enough from me. This is where the actual meat of what we're.
When did you and why did you decide to make this journey?
We decided to make this journey at Logan Aluminum. We was challenged by our plant manager. Is there any AI systems for to cover our machines for machine learning? And at that time, Symphony was the only one that I'd heard of that was dabbling in it or something. And so I reached out to y'all, and come to find out, y'all hadn't even put one in on a hot mill, a steel mill, paper mill. So really for us, it was a big leap of faith. And, will this thing really work? Will we get a return on our investment? But at that point, I'd been working with Symphony or Azima at that time for about 13 years. So I had a level of knowledge and a trust with them. So we took we tried it. We like, all right, let's start out at our hot mill. And so we're going to see what it'll do here. We put it in with y'all's help. This thing we got a return on our investment in 4 months. It was unreal, and it was many times over return. It was a huge return for us. So that's why right now we're putting in our 5th system, because every time we put one in, it pays for itself. And so when you take that to upper management, they like, just keep going. Let's put it in all machines. Let's move. Let's roll with it. So that's where our journey started. It was just a leap of faith, and hey, this thing works. One thing that we really push is data-driven decision making, and because more data, we can make better decisions. And I love the PDM technologies. That's where my passion lies. And this AI system just falls right into that. I mean, it actually gives us a bigger picture. We're more rounded. Instead of looking at vibration on a drivetrain, now I can look at the current, I can look at the alloy, I can look at the speeds, the temperatures, the amperage. I mean, it brings everything in perspective. So it's really been exciting for us to work with this.
ROI. So maybe Amanda, your thoughts on when you look at a program like this where it requires so many levers to pull, looking at data, what benefits were you really expecting, or how were you looking at, okay, this ROI probably made sense to me?
Yeah, so really probably the biggest benefit that we were expecting was to have better work identification and planning. I'm sure there are several companies that are just like us where we constantly put out fires versus calmly work on equipment. And that's really stressful. It's stressful to work under pressure, but we do it. And it unfortunately comes at a cost. So our expectations going into this journey was that the Symphony APM 360 program can help us reduce those last minute fixes. Let us focus more on planning those stressful planning for successful projects, and then completing during optimum times that were, quite frankly, reasonably budgeted and done right the first time.
So I would want to kind of shift from results benefits to another area which can become very contentious. Usually when you lead this kind of new initiatives, change management, impact on people who are recipients of this technology or who has to kind of support this technology. So Tim, your views on that, what have you seen?
Well, what I've seen is typically in the past, you've got process folks on this side of the room, the maintenance folks on this side, and they're pointing at each other. There's a problem, and it's your fault. And this kind of brings everybody to the table, because now we're speaking the same language. And so we've seen that. It's taken us a little bit longer to bring the process folks on, because initially they saw it as a maintenance tool. And now with more training and more doing a lot more one-on-one training with those folks, and they're saying, oh, I can use this. This does apply to my role, and this will make my job easier.
So Tim, your thoughts on what benefits did you have? And I was very intrigued when you talked about ROI in 4 months. Obviously, it speaks a lot about the fidelity of this kind of digital transformation programs. Just wanted you to elaborate that a little further.
Yeah, it was, whenever a system can pay for itself multiple times over in 4 months, it's, that's when hey, you've hit bank right here. So that is so exciting. But there's another part of this that we didn't expect and we didn't know was coming, was this AI system is telling us some stuff that's going on behind the scenes inside of the system, step changes. We're seeing currents drops or spike and stuff that we didn't know all that was going on. We had a motor that dropped in megohms the other day, sent out an alarm, and we was able to react to it. But it did not shut down. It didn't quit, but we're getting to better insights on our equipment. Changing out pumps. All right, this pump is not, the flow rate's not the same as the last pump was in there, so we're seeing lower flow rate. Okay, now we can address that with our pump manufacturers, and so there's so much more to this that we didn't even know was coming.
Tim should have been here talking, not instead of me, but I'm an internal sales guy for my company from all the vendors, and represent the users. For Tim is our maintenance, our predictive maintenance engineer for 27 years in the plant, and he recently, with this implementation, he's had enough, and he was able to retire and start his own reliability company. So he's thank you.